Then the first rain arrives, and the peaceful savanna changes within moments. The rain intensifies, soaking the herd and transforming familiar ground into slippery mud. The low ground is disappearing beneath them, leaving fewer safe routes with every passing moment. Across the quiet savanna, the deer begin another ordinary day, unaware of what is coming. For now, the herd moves peacefully, feeding beneath a clear and forgiving sky. The young stay close to the adults, learning the landscape through every quiet step. Water is plentiful, and nothing yet suggests that this peaceful scene is about to change. The herd has little reason to hurry, and the morning passes without danger. Then one deer notices something beyond the horizon, something the others cannot yet see. The herd continues its routine, following familiar paths across the open grassland. Fresh grass keeps them moving, while the distant horizon remains deceptively calm. Across the wide plain, the herd travels without realizing how quickly this landscape will change. From higher ground, one deer pauses beneath the last completely peaceful sky. The day continues normally, with every step following a familiar rhythm. The herd feeds together, unaware that the first signs of danger are approaching. The young follow the adults toward familiar feeding grounds, trusting the path ahead. The herd remains calm, but the horizon is beginning to look different. For one final moment, the entire herd enjoys the quiet before the storm arrives. Far away, dark clouds gather, and the herd begins to sense a change in the air. The animals draw closer together as the approaching storm grows impossible to ignore. Lightning flashes beyond the horizon, warning the herd that the storm is getting closer. The herd begins moving, searching for safer ground before the storm reaches them. They gather on higher ground, but the approaching storm is already consuming the horizon. Adults naturally close ranks around the young as the wind grows stronger. Every instinct tells them the same thing. The storm is almost here. Then the first rain arrives, and the peaceful savanna changes within moments. The rain intensifies, soaking the herd and transforming familiar ground into slippery mud.
Water begins crossing their path, forcing the herd to move carefully through the rising flood.
The low ground is disappearing beneath them, leaving fewer safe routes with every passing moment. The adults lead the way through the current, choosing every step with care. The youngest struggle most, but the adults stay close and keep them moving. Higher ground offers a brief advantage, but the flood is still spreading behind them. The herd reaches higher ground, surrounded by water that continues to rise below. For the moment, they can only wait and hold together against the storm. Another crossing appears ahead, and the herd must move before the current becomes stronger. The youngest hesitate, surrounded by water, while the adults refuse to leave them behind. The safe path has narrowed to a thin ridge between two moving walls of water. Even the adults are losing their footing as the soaked ground becomes dangerously unstable. The herd crosses open floodwater, exposed to the storm, with nowhere to hide.
Another channel blocks their path, and this one is moving far too quickly to cross blindly.
The lead deer searches the channel for a safer crossing while the herd waits behind. One by one, they enter the current, trusting the narrowest path they can find. The herd makes it across, climbing onto higher ground before regrouping. The final climb begins, but the slope is saturated and every step demands effort. The adults pause just long enough to keep the youngest animals together. The herd stays close to the bank, avoiding the strongest part of the current. The young follow every movement of the adults, staying together through the worst of the storm. The ground itself seems to move beneath them, but the herd continues toward higher ground. At last, the herd reaches a broader plateau above the worst of the flood.
The youngest remains surrounded by adults, protected while the storm reaches its most dangerous point.
Ahead lies the ridge they need, but reaching it means crossing more flooded ground. The herd crosses together, refusing to separate even as the water pushes against them. The herd reaches the final climb, with the flooded valley now spreading behind them. The final climb begins, and the herd must fight gravity, mud, and relentless water to reach safety. The adults slow their pace when the youngest fall behind, refusing to leave them exposed on the flooded slope. For the youngest deer, the slope is almost overwhelming, but the herd keeps moving as one. Below them, the flood has swallowed the low ground, leaving this narrow ridge as their only reliable escape. The lead deer reaches flatter ground and waits, allowing the rest of the herd to catch up. At the highest point, the entire herd finally comes together, with the flood raging far below. The storm finally begins to weaken, but the herd remains together while the flooded land settles below. After the long struggle, the deer finally have a moment to rest as the rain loses its strength. From the ridge, the herd can finally see the full scale of the flood that they have escaped. The worst has passed, and the herd survives together on the high ground, waiting for the landscape to recover. The storm is losing its grip, and for the first time, the herd can begin to relax. The flood remains, but the danger is fading as the sky slowly begins to open above them. The final drops pass, leaving the herd above a transformed landscape and beneath a clearing sky. The rain finally stops, and sunlight returns to a landscape that has been completely transformed.
With the rain gone, the deer leave their refuge and cautiously return to the wet grassland.
The youngest deer emerge beside the adults, their world already beginning to look different after the storm. Fresh grass is everywhere now, and the herd slowly returns to the simple rhythm of feeding. The same water that once threatened the herd now becomes a source of life beneath the returning sun. From the ridge, the survivor looks across a landscape that has endured the same storm. Together, the herd moves forward, leaving the flooded ground behind and returning to life. Hours after the storm, the herd moves freely again across a landscape beginning to recover. The storm has passed, leaving fresh grass, clean water, and a herd that has survived together. As daylight fades, the herd rests together, carrying the memory of a storm they survived as one. Night approaches peacefully now, with the herd finally able to rest after the long struggle. The storm is gone, the herd has survived, and beneath the stars, life begins again.